All right, so let's get our slides shared so we can have some fun, talk managing stress, and get into it. So everyone should be able to see my slides. This morning, we are here to focus on managing stress during the holidays. And so we're doing a series called The Holidays Can Be Tough, and this is through Growing Prevention. So as I mentioned, we are recording and we are streaming on Facebook Live. So hey, everyone on Facebook Live. And I'm Jen Harris. I have Will Russell and Erica Winston here from our BHS prevention teams in Hollywood and South Bay. And so over the next 3 days, we are going to have an opportunity to really talk about the reality that the holidays can be tough for folks. And so today is focused on managing stress during the holidays. Tomorrow is focused on healthy coping during the holidays. And then Thursday, we're going to focus on substance abuse during the holidays, because we definitely know that there is use and misuse that takes place during the holidays. And oftentimes it can be related to stress, or even trying to find a way to cope with the particular situation. And so this will be interactive. You'll have an opportunity to engage if you are joining us on Zoom. We are going to have some games and we'll have a raffle at the end. We also have a video that we'll be watching today. And we're just really going to focus on managing stress because it's definitely important. So since we're going to get started, we want to start just figuring out, based on your current mood, we want you to let us know how you're feeling today. So if you could type it in the chat, don't worry about placing a number in the chat. You could just type whatever emoji you're connected with. For those of you who are on Zoom or on Facebook Live, you can even put that particular emoji in the chat. And maybe you don't see an emoji on the screen that you're like, this is how I'm feeling right now. Feel free to put a different one. So Will, can you do me a favor? Can you read what folks are putting in the chat as far as how are they feeling today?
Okay, so we have Nancy and Nancy Rojas. Nancy gave it an 8. So let me see.
Mm-hmm.
Let me check that out. Okay. Is there numbers involved with this?
No, don't worry about it. Just read what people put.
Okay. So Selena is tired. Then we have Louise, anxious. Dana Thong, happy. Chanthi, also happy.
Nice.
Erica, Erica is, sorry about that, I'm moving it. What is that one? I can't see this at the bottom.
It's
Anxious.
all right. Let me open the chat. All right. Erica said anxious. Okay. All right. Okay, cool. So I'm seeing a lot of different emojis in the chat, and thank you, Will, for that. I love seeing these. We have some smiley faces. It is definitely cold. I feel being a little tired, loved and blessed. I love that. I'm gonna say this one is a meh. So yes, definitely, right? Just a lot, right? In this moment, we may be feeling a lot. And so I think it's great to be able to acknowledge that. And also, as we're talking about stress today and even tomorrow and on Thursday, definitely want to make sure everyone takes care of themselves. not sometimes we have triggers and I don't know what your triggers are, in the same way you don't know what my triggers are as it relates to different things. So if you need to step away, if you need to turn off your camera, feel free. This won't get too heavy today, but we are going to talk about a few things that may bring something up for you. So let's define it. Let's talk about stress, stressors. Let's talk about trauma and all of that, because that's going to play into what we're talking about today. So as we define stress, we're looking at a general term that we use to describe what we feel when something, which is a stressor, disturbs the natural functioning and balance of our lives. And so sometimes when we experience stress, it may feel very weighted. We may start to feel it in our bodies. We may start to feel like really tight in our shoulders, in our back. We might start experiencing headaches, have stomach issues. There are so many responses that our body tells us like, hey, you are experiencing stress in this moment. And so as it relates to stressors, these can be day-to-day occurrences or situations, oftentimes changes, upheavals, whether it's around making a decision, if it's dealing with friends or family members, because we know sometimes that can be stressful, or it's something else that places a new or different demand on us. And so when we think about stressors, there may be some things for you that come up at work, right? That you identify as a stressor, or in your home life, or maybe it's a tug of war with in your financial life. Whatever the case may be, there may be different stressors that you've been able to identify that you can say, okay, this thing right here is a stressor for me. This causes me stress. Now, distress, this is generally referring to negative stress, or what we would consider a bad stressor. So let's say as a student, because I know there are a couple of folks who are currently in their master's programs or whatever the case may be, maybe you fail a test, or you write an essay and you don't do as well as you wanted to. Maybe it's getting into an argument with a friend or a family member or some other type of thing, right? This can be something, having that bad stressor or that negative stress can really take a toll on us. And so it's important that we're able to mitigate these things from happening. And it doesn't mean that you can live your life and not experience any type of negative stress or bad stressor, because sometimes the negative stress or the bad stressor we're experiencing may come from someone else, right? And so I think it's important to be mindful of that. We also want to talk about trauma, because stress and trauma are two different things. And so as it relates to trauma, we're really focusing on this emotional response to an event or an experience that is deeply distressing or disturbing. And so please understand that trauma can have lasting effects on your mental, physical, and emotional health. There are folks who experience trauma at a very young age, and they go through a period of time where maybe they blocked it out, or they got out of the situation or away from the situation or person or whatever it is, right? And then it starts to show up as an adult. And there are all these questions trying to figure out, well, where is this coming from? And I don't understand why, when this thing happens, my body responds in this way, or I start to have these types of thoughts, or whatever the case may be. And so, definitely for anyone, if you identify that during this time, during the holidays, what you're experiencing isn't stress, but it's really trauma, I want to encourage you to seek some support. And this could be within your spiritual community. This could be talking to a therapist, or participating in a support group or something like that. But there are definitely a lot of resources that are out there. We also have youth stress. This generally refers to positive stress or a good stressor. And so maybe, in your master's program or doctorate program, you get an A on that test, or an A on that paper versus, as we looked at the negative stressor, right? The bad stressor. Maybe it is having a healthy relationship or a positive relationship with a family member, and you're able to support them in some way. It could even be getting together with your family, and usually it's a hot mess, but this particular time, it actually was really good. But maybe some of the positive stress was like you having to prepare the meal for the family or whatever the case may be. And then lastly, as it relates to stress management, these are really strategies or activities that someone would use to deal with stress. So whatever the stress is that they're experiencing, they come up with some strategies or some activities that they use to be able to manage that. So that can include exercising, talking to a friend, maybe relaxing or listening to music. And so this is also similar to the term therapeutic. And so when we're talking about stress management today, we'll have an opportunity to look at some tips. We'll also have an opportunity to address some of those things that kick up during the holidays, because we know that they're real, right? And they happen. But how do we manage the stress that we're experiencing when they do happen? What types of supports are available for us in order to make sure we're able to successfully manage them throughout the holidays? So we're going to transition. Let's have some fun. We are going to do a word cloud. And so what I want you all to do is go to menti.com. You can also scan the QR code on your screen. And what you're going to do once you get to menti.com is type in the code. So the code is 8190-9083. So 8190-9083. So we have 2 questions that we're going to be doing for our word cloud. And what I'm going to do is actually switch screens so we can go over to Menti and see what our word cloud looks like. All righty. Okay, so you should see the screen. So menti.com, you're going to use the code 8190-9083. So our first question on here is, what are typical holiday stressors you experience? What are typical holiday stressors you experience? So I see energy, health, budgeting time, finances, drama, crowded areas, parking lots, family, money, shopping. Yes, those are real. All right, let's see. We have finances, drinkers, loss. Yes, work. Absolutely. So we'll give it a little more time for folks to add some pieces on here. Yeah, some more health and finances. Yeah, those are definitely big ones. Work can be extremely stressful, especially around this time, depending on, if you have anything due at the end of the year, if you are preparing for something. Okay, work. Yes. Holiday rush, seasonal depression. Yes. Weather, client issues, loved ones, loneliness, grief. Yeah. Gift wrapping. Ooh, I would so be down to wrap anyone's gifts. If you have to provide all of the supplies though, but that's actually a way that I de-stress is wrapping gifts. And if I don't have any gifts to wrap at the moment, then I'm cool with just wrapping a box or something because it helps me practice mindfulness. So let me know. Holiday parties, buying gifts, unsafe areas. Yeah, seeing people I don't like. Cold temperature, boss. Yeah, absolutely. So all of these, I just want to acknowledge what folks are putting here. I know I'm reading them out, but all of this is real, right? And there's a lot that can stress us out during the holidays. And you may experience something that someone else isn't experiencing. And it should also be acknowledged that something that may stress me out may not stress you out around the holidays, but something that stresses you out may not stress me out around the holidays. And so I think that's important to talk about. So yes, we have a lot listed here. If you haven't had an opportunity to type in on the Mentimeter, then there's still time, feel free. I'll also send out the word cloud to everyone, so that way you'll be able to see it. Yes, I see inflation of gift prices. Yes, yes, yes. Negative people. Ooh, separate holiday dinners. Yes. Sending Christmas cards. Split relationships. Yes, definitely. Buying gifts. Yeah, choosing gifts. Yes, that can definitely be a stressor for folks. So like I said, feel free, take time to add to this. And we're going to go to our next one, which is how do you manage holiday stress? How do you manage holiday stress? So if there are some things that you are currently doing, or maybe you've had some stressors in the past and you found some ways to manage them, whether they're good or bad or negative or positive, how do you manage holiday stress, right? Watching Christmas movies, sleep. Yeah, my dad was just talking to me the other day about how all Hallmark movies are the same. And then I was like, no, they aren't, but you keep watching them though. So yes, Christmas movies are awesome. Yoga, meditation, time management, music, reading, prioritize, rest, to-do list, meditate, walking, music, comedy shows, cookies. Oh yeah, chocolate chip cookies in particular. Vent, eating, eat. I love it. Charity and volunteering. That's cool. Yes, one of my favorite things to do. Beading jewelry, taking long car rides, making gifts. Yeah. I mean, we are moving through this, huh? Shop ahead. Yes. To-do lists. Clearing your closet. Yeah, that's great. Hugs. Hugs are awesome. Working out. Cozy blanket. Taking a deep breath. Yes. Positive self-talk. That is awesome. Sending cards early. Being a kid with kids. Yes, that is awesome. I love that. Walking, yoga. Yes. Listening to music, journaling, cuddling with pets. Okay. Time management, Christmas lights. Yeah, there are definitely a lot of Christmas lights that are out there. I think in the South Bay, there's like Candy Cane Lane, or I don't know if it still happens. But yeah. Let's see. We had some other stuff. Hunker down. All right. Baking with kids. Yes. Cuddling. Let's see. Family trips. Ooh, a gratitude list. Yes. I like that. That's really awesome. Actually, speaking of gratitude lists, I would like for everyone to type something you're grateful for, or express some gratitude in the chat. So what's something you're grateful for? It could be in this moment, today, this week, this month, but what's something you're grateful for? Yeah, movies, freedom. These are all really good. So let's see what we have. My sobriety. Yes. Family and work, recovery, good health. Waking up this morning. Yes, those are all great things to be grateful for. New beginnings. I still breathe, have a job, family, health. Yes, these are great. Thank you all for sharing, because there's a lot to be grateful for, even in the midst of holiday stress, even in the midst of work deadlines, grief that we may be experiencing, health issues that we may have, people who piss us off, traffic. There are so many things, right? But there's definitely a lot to be grateful for. So I love this. We have so much listed here on with our word clouds. And so, like I said, I'm going to make sure we get these word clouds out to you all so you can see. And one of the reasons why we wanted to focus on how do you manage holiday stress is because we're going to talk about some tips today. However, the tips that we're going to talk about aren't end all be all. There are so many things that you can do to manage holiday stress. And we know that we have expertise in the room based on our own experiences, right? And so, we want you to be able to utilize what's here. And with the first question, talking about what stress we experience as it relates to holiday stress, I think that's important to also let us know that we aren't alone, and that there are folks that are experiencing holiday stress. And sometimes it's the same holiday stress that we're experiencing. So thank you all very much for that. Thank you, Chanty. Chanty said, good friends, colleagues, energetic, Gen H. Yes, I love the energy. Okay, so we're going to get out of here and we're going to go back to our slides. Thank you for that. And so let's shift gears and we're going to watch a video, and we'll talk about the video a little bit. And then we're going to move forward. So let me mute and stop my video.
Holidays are a time of finding joy in the context of relationships. I mean, that's the core of holidays, and particular dates or occasions give a good reason for us to gather together and have a good quality time. But what happens is we tend to overdo it. We are a generation of jugglers. As I was saying, an average person has to make hundreds to thousands of decisions every day. We make about 200 decisions about food every day. So we handle a lot, and that just gets doubled or tripled or quadrupled during holidays. So we've got too many open files in our head. We've got too many things we want to do, and we want to be Mr. Perfectionist. We want to do everything right. So that demand resource imbalance, when there is too much demand on us and we have limited resource, that is what is a source of stress. That's number one. Number two is lack of control. When you've got more people coming, everybody comes with their own predispositions, their own habits. You haven't seen them for some time, and that is a source of stress because that leads to some bit of chaos, and that's just the way it is. So if we are able to accept that there's going to be some chaos and not really seek so much control over how things flow, that is going to help our stress. And third is we tend to sometimes over commercialize our holidays. We don't think about the deep value of a particular occasion. I mean, Christmas is a time of forgiveness. Thanksgiving is a time of being grateful. New Year is a time of welcoming the opportunity and beauty that is awaiting us in the new year. So it's not just about celebration, it's really about living the spirit of that occasion, and we forget that. So when you focus on those three aspects, you keep your demand and resource in balance, you let go of some control for the joy that the togetherness brings, and you really live those days with a deep meaning that those provide. That'll help your stress. So what I personally do is I have a place in my home where where I go and sit for 5 minutes. It always gives me calm. So having a sacred place at home where you can gather yourself and center yourself, that certainly helps. Having a set of quotations, books, or index cards that again remind you of who you are, that really helps. Thinking about people who have come close to you, thinking about what they mean to you. See, we all love our loved ones, but we sometimes do not interact with them on a short-term basis as we really feel about them. And so focusing on what this person means to me. And I always keep this line with me: will it matter 5 years from now? What things am I worried about that happened in 2008 that I still worry about right now? There's very little. So anything that I won't bother 5 years from now, I shouldn't bother about it today. And I also try to keep in my head an expression other than love is a call for help. So if somebody is upset, what they're trying to say is, I'm hurt, I need help, instead of my reaction. And it is difficult to enjoy what you're trying to improve. So you do not have to edit everything. You do not have to improve anybody. Just enjoy people, because you can either improve them or enjoy them. You have a choice. So I keep that perspective, and I keep that sacred place, those ideas and role models in my head to come back to the center. Stress has always been there. Every generation has had its own sort of reasons for stress. In our generation, stress is partly because, or largely because, we are a generation of jugglers and givers. So we talked about, we juggle a lot of things, and our brain can only take so much. So that is one part. The second part is, everybody I meet who is experiencing stress is a kind, well-meaning person trying to give out their energy. They're giving out their physical energy, their emotional energy, their mental energy, their spiritual energy. So we're used to giving. We do not know how to receive. We ought to stop sometime and say, yes, I'm willing to receive. So a large part of what I do is help people learn how to receive the emotional and mental energy, how to receive love that people give to you and not deflect it away. We have to learn to receive so that we feel replete, which makes us, again, more able to give.
Awesome. All right. And so I think that, the video talked about some really great things. I'd love for a couple people, if you're comfortable, to unmute and share with us, what are a couple things that you got out of the video? Like, what really stood out to you?
What stood out to me is the fact that people tend to over commercialize the holidays instead of what was said, that we don't connect to the true deep value, such as forgiveness during Christmas time.
Yeah, no, I think that that's definitely significant. And I think the other thing too is, I know we're like, the flyer had this winter theme and it was snowing and so forth. But as over the next 3 days, as we talk the holidays, this includes other types of holidays too. So it doesn't have to just be, Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah. It doesn't have to be Thanksgiving or whatever. It can be any type of holiday, whether it's celebrated nationally or internationally, or even something that you and your family celebrate. Yes, Yesenia.
Yes, the thing that stood out to me was the whole letting go of control.
Yeah.
Useful stuff.
Yeah, I think that's really big, right? Especially if we're someone that really enjoys control. or we need control in order to feel grounded. I definitely understand that because I can relate to it for sure. Chanti?
Yes, the video that stand out to me that he spoke about the secret place that sometimes need to time out a little bit, 5 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I do sometimes when I get out from my house when a lot of family members, relative come, I got like paranoid or what you call afraid of the crowd.
Mhm.
And then I go outside and then I find my little hidden garden that I have plant of flowers and all kind of small plant that I like, I grow. So I sit there and I trim, I pick the dead leaves and sit and just relax and be by myself. That's a good thing that I do sometimes. I
Yeah.
can relate to his statement.
That's awesome. And I
Yeah.
do want to point out too that, oftentimes we hear about social anxiety
Yeah.
and we think it's with other people, right? Like
Mhm.
people we don't know or have great relationships with.
Mm-hmm.
Social anxiety can happen with our own family and friends, right?
Yes.
And I love, Chanti, how you talked about like you have a secret garden, right? You have
Yeah.
this space that you can go to. And
Mhm.
for all of you, I would encourage you, do you have a place that you can go to? And sometimes that's like being in the car, right? If you're,
Mhm.
especially if you're with family or friends, because maybe you go to someone else's house and you don't have the luxury of being able to go into your bedroom or your secret garden area or whatever the case may be, but maybe it's the car, maybe it's taking a walk around the block or something
Mhm.
like that, so you can just
Yes.
take a moment, so you can center yourself, really being in a space to practice mindfulness. And I
Yeah.
think also in those moments, something that can help could be practicing some deep breathing. It could also be focusing on gratitude, because sometimes when we focus on gratitude, that can help bring us in a different space, mentally, as opposed to being in this space of social anxiety or having these negative thoughts or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Perfect.
So
You
that's
hit the point.
awesome. Thank you all very much for sharing. And so let's move forward. And we are going to do a nice little activity. So this game is called Name That Stressor. And so what we're going to do is go through some scenarios. And then what we want you all to do is name that stressor. So I see that there were some things put in the chat. So I want to take a look at that. Okay. Oh, yes, Louise, 200 decisions a day over food. Imagine if you're food insecure, 100%. I think that is very significant. And when I watched this video, I was like, whoa. But just think about that. If you are food insecure, how many more times are you trying to make decisions over food? I think that is something important to think about. Thank you, Paul, for that. Just saw your message. And yes, Paul put, will this thought matter a day from now or 2 weeks from now? Yeah, that's definitely something important to point out, because I think sometimes we get caught up in, like this thing that's happening right now. And in reality, it doesn't have, like how much bearing will this have later on? And so I think it's important that we understand that and we are able to move forward and not hang on to that. Definitely. Yes, Chancey said long name list. I need supposed to send Xmas cards too. Yes, someone put on the word cloud about sending cards sooner. So I think that's something, as something you can look at next year, right? Is identifying your list, ordering cards, and maybe even extra cards. And if you get the cards written in November, you can still send them out in December because they're still relevant and valued. and so
Yes,
forth
I
in
get it.
December. But then maybe that's something that can definitely help. So we're going to go to our first scenario. I'm going to read the scenario, and then it's okay for you to unmute, because definitely I love hearing your voices. And if you want to put something in the chat, then you can do so as well. Okay, so let's meet Rick. Rick has work deadlines. There are so many work deadlines because it is the end of the year. Rick's boss just does not understand that there's too much weighing on him, and he needs a moment. He needs a break. Also, at Rick's job, there are too many people in Rick's department taking vacation. Unfortunately, because so many people are taking vacation, Rick isn't allowed to take any days off. His boss said, "I'm sorry, Rick, it's too bad. There are too many people who beat you to the punch. So you won't be able to take off any time during December. But maybe you can look at late January or early February to take time off." Additionally, Rick feels like he just doesn't have it all together. There's so much going on at work, and he hasn't really had time to focus on getting things together at home to help his family have a great holidays. Name those stressors. So if you want, you can raise your virtual hand and you can unmute if you know any of the stressors that were shared. All right, let's see.
Workload.
Workload.
Heavy workload.
Yes, heavy workload for sure.
The demands of the job.
The demands of the job. Yes, I see Louise put, "Do what I do, celebrate Armenian Christmas on January 6th to wish Happy New Year. People are happy to receive," oh, this is about earlier. "People are happy to receive Christmas and holiday cards even after December 25th. That is so true. There is still time for sure. And yes, Louise, disrespect at the workplace, work stress, time management, meet deadlines, other things, other stressors that you all heard about. So additionally, Rick wasn't able to go on vacation because other staff were going off. Yes, pleasing his family, right? Being able to do something for them for the holidays, feeling unappreciated. Yes, that can definitely happen. You know, kind of like, no, you can't take time off now, but you know, think about late January, early February. Yes. How many of you have ever experienced this type of stress? These types of stressors where at work, okay, 100, at work, maybe you can't take time off because too many people have requested time off. Maybe you have a lot of work demands. Maybe your boss is really demanding, like Janet says, covering for other people's jobs. Yes, definitely. Freedom to do with life as he wishes, having to serve others. You know, there can be a lot of stressors that may come with a work situation. And so it's important that you all know you have to take care of yourself in the process. And so we wanted to talk about this as a stressor because this is something we hear about very regularly as it relates to the holidays. Either someone feeling like, you know, I just can't take the time off right now, even though this year has been challenging, or this year has been stressful, or this year has been awesome, but I just really need a moment, or I want a moment, right? I think the other aspect is, you know, having deadlines and all of these things happening at the end of the year. So to eliminate some of that or alleviate it, could some of these things have been talked about sooner, like maybe in October, so that way Rick could have prepared for it? Additionally, is it possible for Rick to take one day as opposed to maybe he can't take any time off at all, right? So what does that look like as it relates to scheduling? And I saw somebody put time management. That is definitely something that can help here. And I think even being able to have a conversation with your supervisor to say, look, I recognize that there's a lot that has to get done before, January 1st. And I'm doing the best that I can. I'm currently juggling these different things or managing these different things. And so this is when I can get you these things. And then also if you need support, being able to address that with them as well, I think will be really important. What other types of ways could Rick manage his stress during this time? I see Paul said, at times, especially in this field, we give so much of ourselves that we get burnt out. So when you request a few days off and encounter barriers are denied, stress can overcome your daily activities. 100%, right? In this field where we serve, we definitely serve. I think sometimes it's easy for us to take work home with us, even if we're not taking physical papers and work that we're doing, but working with clients or working a demanding job, sometimes we can carry that with us, those stressors with us when we get home. And that's not fair to our families. That's not fair to the folks that we engage in. Maybe you have fur babies. That's not fair to them. Or even fair to yourself, right? Even if you aren't coming home to other people. I see Louise said laying out boundaries, declaring time off. Yes, take a sick day. Don't tell them it is for mental wellness. Yes, I would definitely encourage taking a sick day. Mental health is important. And in my opinion, mental health days count as sick days. Don't quote me on that to your supervisor like it's going to get you anywhere, but mental health days should definitely count as sick days. And if your company doesn't do that already, I would encourage you talking to them about that. But also if they aren't open to it, I think sometimes you just need to make sure you're taking care of yourself, and stress can lead to burnout. And this can cause you to be in a negative space at home during the holidays. This can cause you to, like in Rick's situation, feeling challenged because of all these demands from work and not being able to go home and support his family in the holiday way. So, okay, let's move to our second Name That Stressor. So let me read our scenario, and I'm sure there are people who can relate to this. Okay, so Yesenia is having a hard time. She just lost her job, which included her medical and dental. Gas prices have gone up, gifts are more expensive, and even the price of food has gone up. She tried to buy a chicken the other day to have for herself and her family. And wowee, was the price expensive. Yesenia is struggling right now because she's trying to figure out what should she do this holiday season. What types of food should she serve for Christmas dinner with her family? How is she going to find a job? Because she really was dependent on the medical and dental that she received, not only for herself and her children. Yesenia wants to know, how can she handle all this? The new year is coming up, and she doesn't want to go into 2023 with so many problems. She really needs the medical and dental coverage. She really needs the money because rent is costly. And even though she's experiencing and receiving unemployment, it just really isn't enough with the cost of living in California. So we want you to name those stressors. All right. So I see we have handmade gifts. is, yes, that's definitely something that could be done. Paul says financial crisis, family responsibilities as provider and protector, family health, poverty, financial stress, family responsibilities, no access to healthcare. Yeah, what are some other stressors that you all noticed? Inflation, daycare, cost of living. Yes, daycare is so expensive, so expensive. And this also didn't say how old her kids are, right? And so, you know, maybe she doesn't qualify for like WIC or some other type of program that could support her kids in that way. Let's see, cost of living, inflation, loss of job, looking for a job, unhappiness and experiences with fear causes PTSD. Yes, that is definitely possible. You know, I think this is important to, you know, really acknowledge, right? Times are tough. We know that, you know, there was war taking place earlier this year and continued throughout the year. And there are even wars that are being fought that we don't even know about. And we have a lot of luxuries here in the United States on that front. But even with that, there's still a lot that's going on. You know, when we think about California and we think about the cost of living, we think about LA County in particular and how, you know, landlords are increasing rent. We have, even though gas prices have gone down, thank God, they're still up there when you need to get around. And even with gas prices going down, food costs have gone up. And we aren't seeing this huge drop in food prices since they've gone up. Also, someone mentioned on the word cloud about gift prices increasing, right? How much does it cost to get the latest gadget? Or even if it's not the latest gadget, but it's from 2 years ago, it's still pretty pricey. And so you all brought up some really great stressors as it related to this particular story. I see Paul said not having a sense of control over your life and your future can really cause stress. That is very true. And it's important that we acknowledge that because, you know, think about, and some of you may have been in this situation before where you've lost a job, whether you were laid off, whether you were fired, whether you chose to quit and things didn't work out in the way that you wanted to. You know, it can be tough on the financial side. I see that Luis said a 16-ounce block of cheese costs $8. Who can feed a family? Yes, very true. Jenny says holiday season, most places are closed, might make it harder to get help. Yes, right? Access to resources during this period of time. There are folks that are open, but do you know about them? Who's sharing the resources? How are you plugged in or connected, right? And so I think one of the other things too, as we think about nutrition, right, for a child, for a family, if the cup of noodles costs, you know, 30 cents or 50 cents to purchase a cup of noodle, and this is going to be a meal, even though it has high sodium, MSG, and all the other stuff, not that it doesn't taste good, but even though it has all of that stuff, it's not the healthier option. But how many families are choosing the things that aren't the healthiest options because they cost less to purchase? Luis said, and we all just got out of COVID lockdown, so people lack social decency or even safety, like mean out there. Yes, limit traveling, gas. Yeah, so you can definitely limit traveling if you have the ability to do so. I think something else is, public transportation is still available. And if that works for you, being able to look into that. I would say also calling 211, right? Seeing what types of resources or things are out there, maybe looking for rental assistance. I know ADAP, the Asian American Drug Abuse Program, they have a work source center that can help you with finding jobs. What are some other resources that you all are either you have at your organizations or of that folks can engage in, maybe if they're dealing with this same situation or something else? Okay, Janet says apply for SNAP. Samantha says the WIN app, WIN. Catholic Charities, yes, Louise, Catholic Charities, you can definitely reach out. They have a lot of different services as well. And so if you're in LA County, dialing 211 or even going online and Googling 211, you can go to the website and they will list organizations and things like that. Okay, so let's switch gears to our next one. All right, so here's our next one. Michael and Michelle have divorced, recently divorced. And unfortunately, they need to split the holidays. They have young children who are being impacted by this divorce. It hasn't been easy on either one of them, but unfortunately, what they don't realize is that it hasn't been easy on their kids either. Even though they've been divorced only a little while now, they're still trying to figure it out. They have a divorce agreement that includes custody, shared custody. It also includes it also includes the monies that will be paid to support their children. So with this, they want to know, what are some of their stressors? All right, so divorce. Yes, this is something that can be tough during the holidays. What are some of the stressors that you heard about? Yes, from earlier, Paul says, what is truly lacking is access to psych support. Definitely. Stressors that you heard about. Let's see. Chanty says visiting time. Yes. Being without the kids. One stress is personal between the couple having to see one another. Yes. That can definitely be difficult if the divorce wasn't amicable, for sure. Other stressors, I'm gonna say, okay, financial, definitely, because we're looking at child support. So, and then also the parents, they have their own things going on, right? Some things that they need to work out within themselves and then also with one another. But also the children, right? They're being negatively impacted by this. Okay, Louise says family embarrassment, shame. Yes, these are definitely some things that can be kicked up, some stressors. Tug of war over which parent is best. Ooh, yes, that one can be a big one, right? I think sometimes as parents, not realizing the impact that we have on our children and the influence that we have on our children, choosing sides, but not telling them to choose sides, but wanting to be that parent who is considered the best, and showing that through our actions. Yesenia says emotional stress. Absolutely. Louise says gossip and rumors being heard by kids. That is a big one, right? Because it's so easy to talk and to say things, or to drop these little nuggets in their ears, and then they start feeling one way or another towards the family. Financial constraint, kids getting picked on by others at school. Yeah. And then also some other stress with this too could be maybe your child's in a Christmas play or something, and one parent chooses not to go because the other parent is there. So then they don't get to have both parents present, right? Or, the scenario talked about the holidays and figuring out the holidays and who's going to be where. So one thing I would say is, if the divorce was amicable, or if you all can, can be together without wanting to be violent or say inappropriate things, then I would say maybe for this first holiday, share it together with the kids. And one of the reasons why I say that is because, remember, they're transitioning with this too, and you all are still trying to figure it out. So it's okay for you all to get together and to share this first holiday together, to buy some time so you all can really figure out what's going to be a safe and supportive environment for your kids, and how you're going to work out what the holidays look like. So I think that's something that can definitely work. If you already have an agreement in place, then 100%, being able to work with the agreement. But the other thing I'll say too is checking yourself, getting yourself together, because I think sometimes we don't think about how we manage our emotions, how we're managing our mental health, and practicing healthy coping skills, or not practicing healthy coping skills, and how those things can impact the folks around us, including our kids. So I think that's definitely important. So let's go to our final scenario. And this is something that we really wanted to make sure we talked about, because grief is hard. Grief is extremely, extremely, extremely hard. And so we understand that it can be especially tough during the holidays. And so, for those of you who are grieving loved ones, whether they passed this year, whether they passed 14 years ago, or whenever it was, right? I just want you to know that our prevention team, we are here for you. I'm in prayer for you, because I know what it's like to lose a loved one. And so, and I'll say too, from my own personal experience in 2014, my grandmother passed away the day after Thanksgiving. And, is definitely taking a toll on my family and folks in my family. And so the holidays can be tough, right? And so I think we need to acknowledge that, and, also celebrate their memory, which I think is important. The other thing we wanted to point out too is that grief isn't just when someone passes away. So it could be grieving a lost relationship, right? That can be sometimes just as tough. Grief can show up in different ways, in different forms. And so we have to make sure we're taking care of ourselves, and also recognize, how we're managing our grief. And so with that, I'm going to read our next scenario. Okay. Hilda lost her mother this year. This is her first holiday without her mom. And unfortunately, just last night, her mom's favorite movie came on the TV. Guess what movie it was? A Christmas Story. They used to have so much fun, just laughing. You'll shoot your eye out, kid. And Hilda remembers her mom's laugh. It was the funniest, sweetest laugh that she can remember. Every year they had a tradition. On Christmas Eve, they would get their popcorn. They'd buy lots of candy as if they were at the movies. They'd have cozy blankets, and they would watch A Christmas Story. There has never been a moment that has been funnier than every Christmas Eve Hilda got to spend with her mom, just laughing and connecting and being assured that she was in a safe space. Unfortunately, this year, this Christmas will be celebrated without her mom. She was so sad last night seeing A Christmas Story come across the TV as she was flipping channels. She couldn't bear to watch it. She turned off the TV immediately and broke out in tears. Let's name those stressors. All right. So what were some of the stressors that you heard of? Yes, definitely grief. Hilda was grieving the loss of her mom. Yes, her mom's recent passing at that. And like I said earlier, it doesn't matter when somebody passes, you can still experience grief. Yes, Leslie says loss of a parent and reminders. Yes. Having A Christmas Story come on the TV last night and being reminded of the memories that she had with her mom, definitely a stressor. And so there are some of you that can probably relate to that, you know, trying to figure out, how do I celebrate this holiday or these things that are coming up without this loved one? And so I want you to be able to acknowledge the feelings that you're having, the emotions that are coming up, because that's extremely important. And I also want you to think about, how can you honor their memory? I think it's easy to say, I'm not going to do that thing we shared together because that person is no longer here. However, how awesome would it be to be able to celebrate their memory by doing that thing, right? And so it can be a great way to keep the tradition alive, being able to watch A Christmas Story on Christmas Eve, even though Hilda's mom had passed away. I see Louise said it can stir up existential crisis and questions of faith. Yeah, absolutely. Paul says loss of family tradition, having a missing part of the family. Kids will grow up without knowing their grandmother, aunt, cousin. Keeping that tradition alive, cherishing those memories is a way of keeping her love a part of everyone else's life. Absolutely. Yeah, Dina said emotional loss of the loved one. Absolutely. Definitely stressful. And like we said, grief can be stressful, but there are also ways for us to be able to manage these stressors. And so we want to talk about some tips to manage stress during the holidays. And actually, what I'm going to do, Will, if you can do me a favor and put the sign-in sheet in the chat again. And if you haven't signed in, please do so, because we're going to use that for our raffle in just a few. So let's talk about some tips to manage stress during the holidays. So the first thing we want to encourage you to do is give yourself grace. I want you to process through that. How many times a day do you extend grace to other people? Are you kind and gentle with them, even if they mess up, even if they don't deserve it, right? And how hard or how tough are we on ourselves? Sometimes, as it relates to the holidays and managing stress, we don't give ourselves enough grace. We say, we shouldn't have thought that, we shouldn't have done that, we shouldn't be feeling the way that we feel, when in reality, it's okay for us to think that. It's okay for us to feel the way that we feel, but how are we managing those thoughts? How are we managing those feelings in a healthy way so we don't get stuck there, right? The second thing we suggest is to not lose sight of what really counts. I think sometimes we can get so caught up in the commercialism of holidays. We can get so caught up in family feuds. So we decide, you know what, I'm not going to that family gathering, or I don't want to see those people because I don't want to go through this particular thing, right? How do we move past those things and not lose sight of what really counts? As it relates to giving a gift, do you have to spend money? Someone said make handmade gifts. Could you give the gift of your time as opposed to giving money if you don't have the means? Let me serve you in some way. Let me help you with something that you've been telling me I need to get this thing done, and you haven't done it because you haven't had help, right? Additionally, plan ahead. So this can be related to purchasing gifts. It can be related to Chancy's Christmas card scenario. It can be related to any and everything. When we plan ahead, this helps us really process through what are the things that we need to do or what's connected to this thing. I would also say this can count as it relates to grief. And when you experience grief, right? We know that grief is extremely hard. It doesn't mean that we won't have memories, we won't have thoughts or experiences that bring up or kick up that grief for us. And so one of the things that we can do to plan ahead as it relates to grief is identify our triggers, develop healthy coping skills, and develop that healthy coping skills box. So that way we're prepared if we're triggered by something, and it could be a memory or a thought or something like that. I was driving last night and I was listening to Coast 103.5, and they had the Christmas music going, and it made me think of my grandmother, and it made me think of spending Christmas with her, and when I was younger, and it was just the best feeling. But then it also made me go, man, like, Grandma, I miss you. And so I think, thinking about how sometimes things will come up, or thoughts or things will come up. But if we can plan ahead and have something prepared in case it makes us sad, in case it makes us angry, in case we're starting to question things, I think that'll really help. Number 4 is respond with kindness. People can be, trying to think of a PC word, people can be the worst during the holidays. And we know this, right? Somebody mentioned like the traffic, the parking lots, people cut you off, they're driving fast. Your friends or family members could be the worst and a hot mess. And even in those times, right? Can you respond with kindness? I'm not saying put yourself in a position where it takes you out of character, or you are being physically beat on, or in this negative, bad situation. But what I'm saying is, are you able to respond with kindness even when someone is being the worst version of themselves? Also, we want to encourage you to accept imperfection. I think sometimes, and I know that this is something that I really struggled with years ago, and continue to work at it every day, is that things don't have to be perfect, right? Your family doesn't have to be perfect. The gifts don't have to be perfect. The food doesn't have to be perfect. If it's not your dish, though, don't make it. Have somebody else do it. But, things don't have to be perfect, right? Accept that, because that will provide an opportunity for you to have space in case something doesn't turn out as perfect as you would have liked it to. And it can decrease the stress that would normally come from that high level of perfection. Also, number 6, say no. Around the holidays, we start to get a lot of invites, whether it's work invites, whether it's partner invites, for celebrations or meetings, or all of these different things. And it's okay to say no. Being able to not only manage your time, but to manage your stress levels, to not put so much pressure on yourself during this time, is going to be something that will really help you, because the holidays can be very busy. Also, number 7, we want to encourage you to plan your spending. Sometimes we don't have a plan for spending. And so when it comes to the holidays, we just start forking out all this cash. And then, what happens January 1st? the rent or the mortgage is due. And we're trying to figure out, how do we piece it together, right? So you want to make sure you plan your spending. Today is December 13th. You still have time to plan. I know some of us may have done some shopping on the day after Thanksgiving. And that's okay, right? Maybe you already blew your budget. Maybe you have to rethink some things. Maybe you aren't making any more purchases and you're making those handmade gifts, or you're creating new experiences with someone that are pretty inexpensive. Whatever the case may be, but planning your spending can be great. And that also includes food as well. Number 8 is celebrate traditions or create new ones. So again, I talked about grief and being able to honor your loved ones who have passed away. You can continue to celebrate those traditions to keep their memory alive. You could also create new traditions. Though that can be really fun. And figuring out ways to incorporate new things or new people. And that can definitely reduce your stress and help you manage it. Number 9 is share your feelings. Sometimes we keep things bottled up. We may be experiencing a particular emotion, and as opposed to talking about it, we may keep it bottled up. And when we bottle up our emotions, they can tend to really build. And so it's important that you share your feelings, share them in a safe space around people who you can connect with in a healthy way, that aren't going to put you down for those feelings. And sometimes that is speaking to a therapist. Sometimes sharing your feelings can just be journaling and writing them out, right? That is definitely a great way to help you manage your stress during the holidays. Additionally, I would say, as it relates to your feelings, sometimes we need to just call them out, right? And when I say call them out, you can speak them, you can say them, you can acknowledge that those feelings are there, and then identify ways for you to move past those feelings. What's causing you to have those feelings, and how can you move forward? Number 10, take a break. Sometimes we get caught up in the holiday season and how everything is so fast paced, right? Things tend to slow down more mid-January again, but the holidays can really ramp up with so many things going on. So identify times to take a break. And this can be while family gatherings or things are going on. Maybe the office holiday party is happening, but then you still a few minutes away for you to just woosah and have a moment. Number 11, maintain healthy habits. Sometimes with stress, we can develop unhealthy habits like eating and eating and eating and eating, or consuming alcohol and increasing our alcohol intake as a way to cope with whatever the holiday season has brought. But we want to maintain healthy habits. This can include exercising. This can include connecting with friends and family in a healthy way, whatever it is. Number 12 is connect with a therapist or support group. This can be really great. There are a lot of support groups that are out there, even some that meet during the holidays. And so I would say find one, connect with them. If you need any resources, please feel free to reach out to me and let me know. You can private message me if you're on Zoom, or you can reach out to me. My cell is 310-903-6708, and I can definitely link you up with someone. Number 13 is proactively practice self-care. The reason why the word proactively is there is because sometimes when we start to practice self-care, it's a reactive thing, right? Because there was this really stressful moment during the holidays. My sister pissed me off, or the dog chewed through all the Christmas toys or the Christmas presents, or whatever the case may be, right? Being proactive helps you identify things you can do for self-care to take care of yourself. And then if these situations come up, you won't be reactive. You'll already have some tools. But the other thing is, when you're proactively practicing self-care, you're doing these things as opposed to, I'm only going to do it when something happens. No, time it in, piece it in to your schedule. Self-care can be 5 minutes a day. It can just be practicing breathing exercises. It could be using an adult coloring book. It could be volunteering somewhere, or connecting with friends and family. So whatever self-care is for you, I want you to be proactive about it. Number 14, express gratitude. This can go a long way. For someone who is experiencing grief or, the weather blues or whatever the case may be, I think something that really helps me lift my spirits is expressing gratitude. And one of the ways you could do this is with a Christmas card or a holiday card or a thank you card or whatever the case may be. And maybe identifying 3 people that you want to express gratitude to, and you could write them a card or a letter of gratitude and send it to them. The cool thing about mail, traditional mail, is if they don't know you're sending it, when they get it in the mail, then it's like, oh my gosh, right? Or you can call them, you can text them, you can email them, you can DM them. But the point is, expressing gratitude, even telling someone in their face or showing them, is something that can really help manage your stress. And so the last 2 that we have, number 15, practice time management. Someone mentioned it earlier. Time management is something that can be extremely effective during the holidays, especially when you have so much going on. So sometimes that's calendaring things. Other times that could be not committing to so many things and making sure the stuff that you do have, when it's happening, what time it's happening, and having enough wiggle room in between so you can travel or make it to whatever it is that you're doing. And number 16, rethink your resolutions. One of the reasons why this is a great one to help you manage stress is oftentimes in December or towards the end of the year, we're looking at next year. What do we want to accomplish? What do we want to do? And so people tend to create resolutions, and sometimes they are lofty resolutions, like I'm going to lose 50 pounds next year. Well, realistically, yes, that could happen, but are you going to do it? And could you have a smaller goal or smaller resolution and work your way up? The other thing too is they say typically New Year's resolutions, most people don't last past like February or March. I would say, I heard a pastor say a couple years ago to not call them resolutions, but call them milestones, because when you have a milestone, then you can meet that milestone and continue to build to reach a larger goal, right? And so this can be a way to help you manage your stress, is if you really rethink your resolutions, your goals, or your milestones. And so with that, we're not going to do Pictionary because we don't have time. But I want to look, the Pictionary is trying to stay. Okay, so let me go back. So we're going to do some raffles before we jump off. I hope that this was really helpful for you all, because I think it's important that during this time, during this season, that we are managing our stress and we're looking at ways that are really going to best serve us so we can show up as our best selves every day during the holidays. And so if you haven't signed the put your name in the sign-in sheet, please do so, because it's beginning to look like raffles. And so we're going to raffle off some e-gift cards. I see we have some stuff, some comments in the chat. So Louise says, grace can be demonstrated by how we establish boundaries, 100%. Yesenia says, extend the same grace to yourself exactly as you do for others. Staying in the present helps me not to stress or lose sight of what counts. Louise says, a fun new tradition is exchanging an ugly or funny budgeted $10 thrift store gift. Yes, my family trades vintage Christmas aprons. That's so cool. 12-step groups are free, 100%. Paul says, taking a moment to acknowledge those people who are in our life, the many contributions they have made to our betterment and strengthening is a very healing and maturing process, 100%. Let's see, what else do we have? I see we have, Paul says, thank you for your time and sharing all of those important lessons that we so often forget. Yes, I forget too sometimes. And so it's a great reminder when we get to do workshops and share info. Edwina says, yes, great information. I'll use milestones from now on. They have really helped me for sure. How do you sign the sign-in sheet? Terry, I will add your name. And so just want to do our closing. Yeah, absolutely. Just want to do our closing slide, which has our contact information. And so I thought this was funny because it had a bunch of gifts, or we added a bunch of gifts. Just want to encourage everybody to woosah, because the holidays can be tough. But that doesn't mean that we have to let them get the best of us. And so with that, I'm going to stop my share. And I'm going to take the names from the sign-in sheet real quick, and I will add them to our raffle list. Okay, here we go. Yes, again, thank you to everyone for taking the time today. Tomorrow, Will is going to lead us in healthy coping during the holidays. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll have some activities that will be leading us in. And then on Thursday, which will be our final workshop, the focus of that is going to be on substance abuse during the holidays. Yes, for each day we will meet at the same time, which is 10 a.m. Pacific. All right, let's get a full screen going, and we are going to draw some names. So we are going to do 3 $10 gift cards, and you can choose where you want the gift card to, as long as we can do it electronically. So here we go. So our first $10 gift card is going to Leslie. Leslie, are you still on?
Thank you.
Awesome. Congratulations. And can you do me a favor and just send me a message, or you can put it in the chat, excuse me, that says where you want your $10 gift card to. All right, our second winner is Alexandra Cervantes. Alexandra, are you still on?
Yes, I'm still here. Thank you.
Yay! Awesome. Congratulations. All right, so we have
Jen, excuse
Yes.
me, Jen. I see my name too. My name in there is not right.
oh, you're saying it's on there
Yeah.
twice?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Thank
Sorry.
you, Dina, for noticing that.
Thank you.
All right, let's get full screen.
Jen, you don't even have to spin it. Just use it right there. Still right there.
Shanti Nisha, you know you my girl. But we live on Facebook. Oh. All right, Nancy Rojas. Nancy, are you still here? Is Nancy still here? Can someone check for me?
She responded in the chat. Maybe her mic doesn't work.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't have the chat open. Okay, congratulations, Nancy. All right, so we are going to do gift cards tomorrow and gift cards on Thursday. Thanks again, everyone. It's been fun. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye, Jen. You're so awesome.